Today we have our keynote speaker, John White, who will be presenting keynote on data center futures, scaling the backbone of tomorrow's digital world. John is the Chief Operating Officer at US Signal and has traveled to us today from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is John's first time, as she pointed, and we do want to welcome John on stage and make him feel at home. Welcome, John.
All right, newcomer. Put it right on my badge. With 201 friends, though, as a newcomer, so I'll take it. How's everybody doing this morning? Come on, we need a little more energy than that. Nanog 94, Denver, baby, let's go. I have a lot of passion for infrastructure, so you're gonna hear my voice, and I'm a little bit of a wanderer, and with a room like this, I gotta move around. So John White, from Pennsylvania, Chief Operation Officer at US Signal, my first Nanog. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the people that volunteer to put this thing on. It's pretty impressive. I've been to other user groups, but this is definitely, there's an element about this one that's a little bit different, especially when everything that we have on here, the presentations, the registration list, it's all public. It's pretty cool. It's different for me to see. So congratulations for everybody for putting this on. I'm sure it was a big event, and now you're gonna start going and planning the next one. Real quick though, I'm a little nervous, so I gotta ask you all something here to see if I should be nervous or not. How many people in the room are network engineers? That's what I thought. I blamed a lot of stuff on you over the years, I have to admit it. Okay, I'm a systems cloud guy. Anytime it didn't work, do you know why it didn't work? Yeah. DNS, yeah, something. You would come onto calls, you'd come onto P1s, you'd be like, oh, I gotta check out the ARP table, the MAC address isn't working, and oh, the BGP routing's not. I'm like, holy crap, are these people cool? I go and I hit the reboot button on my Windows machine, and I try to fix it that way. So I've always been a little bit jealous, so don't hold it against me. I am definitely a cloud systems guy, but I'm really excited to be here talking about networks today. QR code is to my LinkedIn. Would love to connect and kind of continue to build that network. We're gonna run 45 minutes today, but there should be time for questions. But if you want to ask them, one-on-one digitally, LinkedIn's a great place to do it. So real quick about me, I've been in infrastructure pretty much my whole life. I started out in my parents' bedroom hosting things. Legalities of that, and the statutes of limitation, we're not sure we're allowed to talk about. But I spent a lot of time on IRC in the early days of my life. I've held a lot of different innovation titles in my lifetime, or my work time, focused on a lot of product development, especially inside of the data center, inside of the cloud side of things. I am ex-AWS, so I know there's some other Amazonians here, so you might hear some of my talk track that I say that might sound like AWS. It was a really good experience. I got to actually work with some of the largest cloud consumers inside the United States. I've created multiple Gartner Magic Quadrants. One of the coolest ones is a DR as a service product that automated the failover of the network. So I do know the importance of the network, and I think that's going to be a lot of my talk track today. In my daily life, I'm responsible for solution architecture, product engineering, operations, delivery, and the marketing side of the business. So every day, it looks a little bit different for me. I'll be on a P1, helping my team and provide executive air cover. I will also be helping building a data center, whatever they really need. When I'm not doing that, I'm chasing 4 kids, literally chasing 4 kids. I have my youngest is a 3-year-old, my oldest is a 13-year-old, and then 2 sprinkled in between. When I'm not doing that, I'm driving them to soccer. I'm also then in my free time racing cars, so I got into road racing during COVID, and that's where I like to spend a lot of my time, and then vacationing. Real quick about US Signal, just to kind of give you my bias and my understanding of kind of where I focus my daily life on. Connectivity and data centers are 2 core competencies. That's our life. We also do security, managed services, cloud, that kind of stuff. We have 16 data centers across the United States. We have 2 edge ones under construction right now and 8 micro edge. So think like container in a box or like an advanced ILA there. 9,500 route miles of fiber and growing. We have about 1,000 plus under construction right now. The 2 fiber networks are significantly different, and I'll hit on that. About 3,000 customers inside of the US, very high touch sales method that we have. So we get really ingrained with our customers. Now first, before we get into the main talk, I want to start with a little bit of a game. So I know you're looking at your computers. I can see them. I can see you looking at your phones too. Just pull up bingo.askjohnwhite.com. Okay, I promise you this is not one of the security tracks, so I'm not going to phish you or steal any of your data or steal any of your passport information, anything like that, I promise. We're going to have a fun game here. Buzzword bingo. Every keynote's full of buzzwords, right? So we at least might as well have some fun with it. So open up the website. Sorry, in the mobile side, it's not that good, but it'll work. Go there, you'll get a board. If you refresh that board, you'll get new buzzwords on it. So if you start clicking on a few that I knock off, you might run into a problem because it's going to refresh it. Every time you hear me say a buzzword, mark it off. 5 in a row is a bingo. Yes, there is a coverall. Who loves bingo? I'm ready for retirement, so I'm ready for bingo. You know, we'll see. We'll see how long that'll take me to get to, but I'm ready to play some bingo. If you get a bingo, you're going to get an email button pop up, send that over, and my marketing team will respond with a digital gift card in your inbox. There is a grand prize, so you can get a coverall, but I have one request, only one request. The first person to get the bingo, like, I want you to stand up and yell bingo. Like, I want everybody to know who's really ready for retirement. I want that dominant bingo player in here, the person that's paying attention, to stand up. I mean, stand on the table. I don't care. Like, get wild with it. Like, I want everybody to know you screamed and you got bingo. Cool? Deal? All right. Good. Please silence your cell phones. Please. Thank you. All right. So I actually put in a submission for Atlanta Nanog. That's how I kind of got here today. But it was all filled up, and I started talking with Steven, and I gave him a deck that I just did in Madrid like a few months before. And he said, I like that deck, but I want you to customize it and make it towards us. I'm like, really? I have the deck already done. Like, it's kind of easy. I can just do it. So this is a brand new deck. This is all focused on data centers and some network stuff inside of there and open source. But the big question that I asked in the abstract is, what's going to happen in 2028? And so we have this technology timeline out. Before you throw the daggers and spears, yes, I know that the internet was not created in 1998. This is a modified calendar. It's a mom-modified calendar. It's when my mom asks me about these things, that's when I know it's truly mainstream. All right, so every 10 years, it seems like something big happens or some sort of technology push happens. We have the internet, we have virtualization, we have cloud, and then we have this other thing hanging out here in 2028, 3 years from now. As technologists, we should all be thinking about what's going to be coming in the future. I mean, that's where I spend my days. I love asking big questions. I love saying, you know, what's gonna change our world? What's gonna impact my kids? What's gonna impact my kids' kids? And I like to think about that all the time. Any guesses, any ideas? Throw it out there. Oh my God, can you believe that? A keynote to talk about AI. Shocking. That should be a buzzword for almost everybody. That should be on there. Yes, we are gonna talk about AI as part of the keynote, but that is, you know, right now looking at it, that's the big thing that we're all facing, that we're all trying to figure out, what the heck does that mean? It's in the news, it's in the media, people are worried about it. You have guys like Mika coming out there saying, you know, AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my job too. Well, I'm really glad I went to school for mathematics and not the art side of it. I have no art genes in my body. I can't even draw a stick figure, so I don't have to worry about that on Fiverr. I'm an infrastructure builder, and I look at these type of charts instead. And when I look at this chart, I think, holy crap, there's a whole bunch of this. There's a lot to unpack here. But AI and non-AI workloads are going to be key drivers to the data center space throughout 2030. And look at the growth rate, 3.5x over the next 5 years. Look at that AI scale growing there. But then I look down at the bottom, and I look at that gigawatts, and I'm like, holy smokes. My retirement's not coming anytime soon. I'm an infrastructure guy at heart. I've been doing this and building like this stuff all my life. I'm going to be around for a while, but looking at some of these numbers, they're staggering. They're real problems that we're going to have to face. And so that's where I'm going to focus my talk on today, is what do we need to do to be successful as infrastructure people to help accommodate that growth? because I think we're all pretty sold on AI. Like it helps me on a regular basis. Again, I didn't go to school for English. I'm sure you could tell. So I use ChatGPT and everything else to really clean up a lot of my emails when I need to sound professional. And so that's every part of my life that I live that we need to make sure that we're thinking about. So when I was at AWS, we talked a lot about flywheels, and I probably could create a pretty cool graphic on a flywheel and how all these things all meld together. But the three big things that I'm focusing on every day, that I'm answering questions from analysts, I'm answering questions from my board, is this: data centers, network, and open source. Open source might be, one that seems a little bit off, but hopefully I can pull that together. So let's talk about each of these individually. On the data center side, now I've been in data centers. I started my first job in 2004 in the data center. And I remember, and this is a big coming out moment, so I'm gonna say it a few times. But I remember when I took this job, I got out of college, took this job, and people were like, "You're gonna go work in a data center?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Why?" And I said, "It's pretty cool in there. There's servers and stuff there running websites, and that's where the world's going." And they said, "Oh, okay." And I was like, no, it's actually really interesting, and I think it's going to be, pretty cool one day, and I think it's going to be how we have to live our life. It's going to be run through a data center. So 21 years later, I'm finally vindicated in my decision to get into data centers, and so I make sure that everybody knows it. Now, when I'm looking at data centers, I start to look at all the AI boom on the data centers, and I start to kind of break it down in my head. And, I'm not a conspiracy theorist per se, but I do believe we have aliens over the Denver airport. I think that's, everybody can agree to that, right? There's no, as a huge airport, there's no way your bags get from A to Z that fast without some sort of aliens running underneath it. Fine, I get it, whatever you want to do. But I think AI right now in the media and how people are thinking about it, maybe there's a little misdirection. I am pretty certain that AI is going to be a state-funded thing. Because what has AI produced to you? I was reading a paper the other day, and it was talking about AI as a truth producer. So tell me that can't be something that's super critical to a state or a different country to make sure that you're controlling the narrative there. So I'll talk a little more about that. And then I also believe that we, the consumers, are the inference that everybody's talking about inside the data center space. So when I was a kid, I grew up outside of Pittsburgh in a town called Westview. And it was always a story, there was the lore, that there was a missile silo in Pittsburgh with these Nike missiles. And I'm not sure if these are Nike missiles. If there's any experts in the room, you can tell me. But this is what I Googled, and this is what came up for a Nike missile silo. Anybody ever hear about this stuff? Nike missiles, built in the 50s, okay, to protect critical assets inside the United States. What's critical in Pittsburgh? Steel production. Pretty critical if we're inside of a war. So I heard this rumor all my life when we were kids, these Nike silos all over Pittsburgh. And so when I got older, and you can start to talk to people, I would ask people about it, and my grandpa was telling me that they used to roll these missiles through, during parades and that kind of stuff, during 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, those types of things. And these Nike missiles then were kind of shown off to kind of show the power that we had and the protection that we had in Pittsburgh to make sure we kept our steel mills. I feel like AI is doing some of the same thing. On the other side of AI, and that's where we're talking about it pretty heavy right now in the training, is all this consumer stuff. I'm in New York City the other week, and I'm staying in Times Square, and this ad comes up for an AI washing machine. Does anybody have one? Does anybody need an AI washing machine? Is that something we knew we needed? I don't know about that. That one's a little struggle for me. I'm gonna have to reboot the washing machine every time I need to use it. That sounds frustrating to me. But we have this whole inference focus, and I think it's gonna be unlimited in possibilities and ideas that people are gonna have. And these are my two focus points today to kind of walk through data centers and walk through these two elements. So to do that, the ultimate arms race, I think, is Stargate. Would people agree? Yay, no? It's all over the news. My mom knows about it, so I know it hit mainstream. That's, again, my litmus test for everything. And they're building this data center down in Abilene, Texas, the middle of nowhere. And so we're gonna roll through this video to kind of show what this looks like. So this represents a data center plant that will be 1.21 gigawatts. 1.2, but I like to say the 1.21 from Back to the Future. They're gonna have natural gas generation, that's what you see here. And the scale and the size of this thing is absolutely amazing. I mean, you can see it from these aerial videos. I mean, that's a monster truck rolling through here. And you can see on the right-hand side is the cooling side of this cooling side of the data centers. All of those, that's all for cooling. You can see the chilled water pipes there. We're building this monster, but this has that moment that feels like we're driving the missiles through the parade right now. I mean, we're talking 1.2 gigawatts of power consumed. Our houses use watts. Our data centers use kilowatts inside of a rack, megawatts on the commercial side of it. And this is going to be a dedicated data center with 1.2 gigawatts. And the scale and the size of this thing, I think, is just absolutely massive that it's hard to think through. There was a awesome presentation done at Bloomberg did it on site, actually driving around this facility. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. But it talks through every one of these data halls. And the guy from Caruso, who's actually going, and they're one of the lead builders on this, talks about what these things are. He doesn't call them data centers. He calls them what? What? Boxes? What else do we got? Factories. Factories. That's a weird word to talk about a data center. What are you creating in a factory at a data center? You're creating knowledge, you're creating truths, because a lot of times we believe what AI tells us. It's a very weird thing. And that feels to me like a lot bigger game is being played than really is being talked about. But I think it's only part of the chessboard that needs to be filled. When you start to look at the numbers then, it's pretty interesting. Right now, in 2025, we have about $60 to $70 billion being spent on data center development. And we have these huge, big numbers being thrown out there. OpenAI, a single company, $11.6 billion being thrown at it. Then you gather a whole bunch of the hyperscalers together, NVIDIA, $676 billion being thrown towards these projects. Again, that seems like we're fighting a different fight. And I'm not sure, again, if we continue to throw all of our money into the one side of it, if it's going to be really the right place for us to be in the future. So when we talk about the consumer play, that's where I think the big opportunity is for AI. Yes, we need the noise. We need to create the big, factories of data center. But the AI side of it, I think, is how we're going to consume it and really what's going to impact our life and what's going to change what we need to build as infrastructure people. I have two things on here that I use every day. So I've been using an Oura Ring. Anybody else? I've been using it for a lot since Gen 1. The Oura Ring helped me to understand that if I drink alcohol, I don't sleep well. Guess what? I don't drink alcohol anymore. That's what the device provided me. The other one is, anybody else know what the bottom one is? It's called a Garmin Catalyst. All right, we have another racer in the room. All right, so I use this in my race car. This helps me drive faster on a racetrack. It has a camera there you can see on the right-hand side, and it's going, and I wear earphones when I'm driving, and it tells me, brake later, brake stronger, accelerate faster. It's giving me predictive understanding of where I could be if I drive my ultimate lap. This is the pretty cool thing that we're going to have from a B2C play. The other video that I'm going to roll, I think, is even cooler, though.
That was really nice, but your elbow was off.
Imagine the day when you can have AI train you to be a top athlete. We could feed in all the NBA, CBA, all the basketball information we have, all the sport information we have, and I could go and learn technically how to shoot like Michael Jordan. Yes, I won't be able to jump like Michael Jordan, do any of those things, but in a realm, AI can teach me to be a player like Michael Jordan and watch me go through it.
But you missed the shot.
But what happens if we start using AI to teach us?
Great shot, Blair. The recorded arc height was 12.8 feet.
If we start using AI to teach us, everybody's going to be the same. Also, the infrastructure is going to change. You can't have latency inside of your infrastructure. You have to have some sort of edge environment be there to make sure that you can have that instant response back from an AI or computer to go and make sure that we're all being trained the same way. At the same time, then, we need to close the loop and provide the learning inside of it. The opportunities there are endless. And as we start to think about where that shift will go, I think we're going to see a tremendous shift in infrastructure in the future. Today, we're all focused on the training side of it. We saw the Stargate data center. We see it in the news. But really, the big opportunity for us on the infrastructure side is where the inference side will go. And as you start to look out past 2028 into 2030, you can see it's projected right now, we'll see a 3x power demand as we go and think about training in the future. 3x demand of data centers. We're all focused on the $500, $600 billion of building these mega data centers. How much is it going to cost us to go and build all of those edge data centers? And when you think about edge data centers, this is what's kind of keeping me up at night and where I'm thinking about it. If we go to this B2C play, how do we make the edge make sense? And if you look at the data centers across the United States, you'll see there's really 4 or 5 main places. California, Texas, Virginia, you have Illinois over there, and New York. That's where the data centers live right now. The people live in different places. The people live all across the United States. So if you overlay the data centers where the people live, you can see we have a major gap in where we're spending our money on data centers. Down in Texas, where we're building this monster Stargate, yes, there is land. Yes, there is power. There's not a lot of people to be close to that. And if you think that AI inferencing is going to be the way of the future, this is an element that we have to start thinking about as infrastructure people. And so that's where a lot of my day I'm focusing and spending it and thinking about what this new edge is going to look like in the future. And if you look at this chart here, we have 2 main, really consumers. So we have the enterprises, that's the customer premises side of it. We have the consumers that we go through it. We have the big cloud players, and you have the hyperscalers up there, your AWS, your Azure, your Google, but you have these new players too, neo cloud. Everybody familiar with that term? I'm kind of shocked that we don't have any bingos yet. Anybody actually even playing the game? Is it working? All right, good, okay, all right. Whew. But we have these consumers, we have these customers, they're coming in multiple levels of cities. And I think this is going to be a big opportunity for us in the future to figure out how we need to build this infrastructure to make this work. And we're kind of at that moment right now. Oh, my battery's running low. All right. That's not going to impact anything, right? Okay. All right. I'll keep going. If it just talks, I'll just go a cappella, I guess, and if the battery dies on the laptop. So we have this whole edge, and I think this is the one element that what we need to really focus on. But what do you see in the news now? You see everybody's focusing all their money on the data center side of it, and that's, I think, the big gap. And this room is probably some of the most important engineers in the room to make sure that we can fix that gap in the future. Last night, I got my, yesterday I got my first intro to the Nanog community through an event that XKL did. And this is also kind of like, kind of blew my brain a little bit. But I sat and watched a baseball game with one of the co-founders of Cisco. Like, one, that's pretty cool that you have him inside of your community. But 2, we're sitting there talking baseball, talking about the future of technology, talking about the future of connectivity, and you have people like that thinking about it. I think it's going to go a long way to make sure that this vision becomes a reality, because this is what I think we need for the future. This is the data center style that we need to make sure that we can hit where AI is going to take us from a workload perspective. But like I said, network is going to be the key to kind of interconnect it and bring it all together. So that brings us into our second topic, network side of it. About 2 months ago, I got reached out to do a consult for a company that's looking to build a data center in Pittsburgh, and it's an ex-steel factory that they have. They were going to turn into a data center. I think it was about 200 megawatts of power, so pretty good power side there. It was outside of the floodplain, even though it was close to the river. And they were telling me just how they have everything figured out already. And I said, great, what's the network look like coming in? Any guesses on what they said? I heard the Chris Grundman, huh? That's kind of, they said, oh, we have tons of network coming into here, John. I said, great, tell me about it. We have 8 different carriers coming with network in here. Great, how much network do they have? Any guesses on how much fiber count they had available to them running by here? About 2 to 20 strands of fiber. How much is that going to get you in the AI space? Not much. A lot of the fiber that we're building is for the hyperscalers focused on their machine learning and AI side of it. And we were meeting with them in February down at Metro Connect, and we were talking to them and we said, where are we at in the game of fiber? We're building very dense fiber. So when we're building fiber, we're building 4 conduits in the ground, micro ducts, typically stuffing it 432 or 864 counts of fiber, and they don't even know when that's going to be if that's going to be enough. So where do you think we're at in the game of where we're at on the network infrastructure build for fiber? In their eyes, we asked, hey, are we early innings in this thing? They said, look, we're not even out of the dugout yet. Okay, it's going to be the next thing that's going to be the next big bottleneck for us in the future. And so I've been thinking about that topic a lot. And so I started thinking about it and like, okay, where is it from the media side of it? Again, because I need to know when my mom's going to know about it. When is my mom going to start asking me about fiber? And you look at it, and these were some of the biggest announcements that I had. And you can think about that from the data center side where it's $500-600 billion being spent. You have a few $billion being spent throughout here. But when you go and you pull the published capital numbers that are out there, and I'm sure there's private enterprises building as well, about $96 billion. And if you remember, in 2025, it's $60-70 billion on the data center side of it. So people are building fiber. There is money being spent building fiber, but it's just not as maybe sexy as the data centers are. It's not as like national, like rolling the missiles through the town kind of thing. But it is something that is specifically needed. But there's some headwinds that are building on the fiber side that really have me concerned, for how we're going to go and implement this 2028 vision or this 2030 vision, however it comes, of AI. Right now, we're seeing increased lead times in fiber optic cables, 60 weeks. Labor and material prices are going up. There's less laborers to do the work. It's hard to go and dig fiber everywhere throughout the United States, again, when we did it 20-some years ago, 30 years ago. Secondary markets continue to remain bandwidth constrained. I read a study the other day. Inside of the United States, we only have 70% of all of the humans online and running. 70%. 30% of people inside the United States are without network. AI workloads are going to continue to scale. Right now, 10x more fiber interconnects is one of the studies that I found. And everybody that I've talked to and everybody that that I'm interacting with is they're saying the AI bandwidth need is infinite. They can't put a cap on it. If you can deliver 100, they want 200. If you can deliver 200, they want 400. That's going to continue to go and scale. And so I saw this quote the other day that I thought was pretty interesting from an analyst. You can have land, you can secure power, but if the bandwidth isn't there or controllable, you don't have a viable asset. This morning, I woke up to 2 emails in my inbox of, hey, we have land, we're ready to build a data center. I go and pull it up on Google Maps, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's no fiber networks that I know even close to this thing. That's going to be a problem. There's going to be a lot of money that's spent to pretty much go nowhere. But I think we can learn a lesson from our past. The telephone era is a really interesting lesson on scaling network connectivity into the homes. It took about 40 years for telephone networks to hit saturation inside the house. Okay? If we don't have that with internet, if we don't have that with fiber, how the heck are we ever going to be able to deliver the B2C play, the consumer play on the inference side of where AI is going to go? I don't think it can happen. So again, I'm going to say it again. I'm not kissing up because I blame so much stuff on the network engineers in the room. I think the network engineers in the room, the people that are thinking about this problem, the lens of the world, like those people, you all are critical to making sure that this reality of AI can actually come to life. Because as we look at it, we see more things growing and scaling the demand that we need. I look at my kids and what they're doing. They watch YouTube videos nonstop. They're doing online gaming. They do online schooling. They're talking with their friends. They're playing a video game while talking to their friends on FaceTime. The need for bandwidth is never going to stop on just everyday life. When you start to throw AI into everything, it's going to break the system. I pulled up my phone, and there's a way you can look at how many apps. I have 200 apps on my phone. If all 200 of those apps have some sort of AI element into it, and they need some sort of inferencing here, we're not going to have enough bandwidth, we're not going to have enough fiber, we're not going to have enough connectivity to go and make that happen. And if you look at the trend side of it, I think the demands are kind of outpacing the trends in some case. And again, I told you, I'm not a network engineer, so you could say, John, you're completely wrong. But as we look at how we connect people wirelessly with 5G, 6G, wherever that goes, we look at fiber optic density in the future and where we go from here. And I was talking to Len about this yesterday, 1.6 terabit. And when you start getting past that, it starts to get a little sketchy. Things start to melt. Okay, so we can't just continue to put more bandwidth through the fibers that we have today. That's going to become a challenge for us in the future. So where the AI is pushing us and driving us, fiber is going to have to, and connectivity is going to have to need to hit pace to make sure that we can hit where we want to go in 2028. Now, the third element of the story that I'm watching, that I'm focused on pretty heavy, is the open source side of things. Okay? Open source has been a topic of conversation for me for a long time. My dad is a ex-CompuServe engineer from the 60s and 70s. He has been focused on open source, way before I have, so I'll admit that. And his world, he does not have Microsoft applications on his laptop, that kind of stuff. He uses all open source to do everything. And open source has been a big focus for me, especially over the last year. I didn't hear you. Bingo, you got it. There we go. That took way longer than I thought. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully people are close. I want to give out more gift cards. Just tell me what words you need me to yell out, and I'll start yelling them out. I don't even know what words I had inside there. I'll show you in a second. But open source has been a big part of my life the last year and a half. Everybody's probably aware of what VMware did. VMware raised prices. I was a big VMware shop. How did we respond? We didn't just take it. We went and build our own open source cloud platform on top of it. So I've been spending a lot of time in the open source community. But I think it's going to be a big driver for us in the future. And what's reality, and what you don't hear in the mainstream media, is open source is actually growing pretty rapidly. 17% CAGR, so compound annual growth rate, is what open source is seeing. Anybody know what cloud is? So you hear AWS and Azure and GCP hit all of their earnings. Any guess on what the CAGR is in cloud? Close. Anybody else? 40? Nope. Nope. 20. Open source is 17, but it doesn't get any credit. 20% for cloud, that's where all the money's going. AI is 50, which is insane. But that's the growth that we're living in right now. And I think open source has a huge spark that's coming. I can predict it. I mean, look what DeepSeek did to us. OpenAI came the fastest using program to hit 1 million users. What? Bingo, another bingo. Good, we got some more coming. All right, so DeepSeek comes out, it goes and breaks the model on open source side of it. There's people that are sitting there selling all their NVIDIA thinking it was doom and gloom because this one open source model came and hit. And I think there's more coming. So that brings me to another theory that I'm focused on pretty heavy right now. I like to try to predict things, and if I get it wrong, who cares? You'll forget about it, and I'll forget about it. But I think there's a big, great SaaS repatriation coming. And I think open source is going to fuel that SaaS repatriation. I do believe that we're going to move from central proprietary tools like Salesforce, Office 365, that kind of stuff, move into open source in the future. And that's going to be a big driver based upon what we're trying to do inside of AI. I'll explain that in a second. The first way I think that's going to be is people need to get budget. I don't know if you look at your enterprises, but I went and pulled I used my buddy Grok to give me some data. There's a range, about $3,000 per user per year is spent on open source. It's a lot of money, especially when you think about some of the companies that sizes that are using this. I mean, you have 10,000 people, that's real money. If you need to create budget for AI, what's a great way to do it? Right there. I think there's going to be 2 runs on how this is all going to happen. We're going to have open source SaaS applications that are going to start to hit mainstream. So think O365, just open source. But we're also going to have a development of apps happen at a rapid pace. So where we're running enterprises today, and we're running Salesforce and all this other stuff, we're going to start just develop our own. Why? Well, I was talking to my friend over at Geico, who's leading the charge to move out of VMware, move out of Azure into OpenStack. And I asked her, I said, why are you doing this? Why are you moving to open source? Her answer was simple, once you got past the SLAs and everything else. It was when you go and you spend $100 at an ISV, so somebody that's developing software, some of that goes to R&D, right? Would you want to dictate a few percentage points of that R&D spend or 100% of that R&D spend? She responded back with, she wants to dictate 100% of that R&D spend. So the development of applications is going to be critical for people to then go control their own destiny. But how? How does this tie to AI, John? This doesn't make any sense. Where are my vibe coders at in the room? Any vibe coders? Chris, that's it? Oh man, I'm cool. Like I'm a vibe coder now. Like I'm hanging out with Chris. So I'm a vibe coder. I didn't know what that meant until about a month ago, but I'm using a tool called Cursor. And I'll play through this video and get this thing started. So I wanted to go and create this buzzword bingo game for you all today. So I had two options. I went and searched the web and I found a bingo game, and I could pay like 20 bucks and I would have to like customize the words and everything. Or I could say, you know what? I'm gonna go and open my friend Cursor, I'm gonna write a prompt, and I'm gonna go and actually build the code myself. Because building the code myself cost me what? How long do you think this took me to build buzzword bingo? I mean, you've pulled it up. It's not that great. Like, it's okay at best. Okay? You're gonna see it all happen here. 5 minutes. 5 minutes it took me to build this. So if you're not familiar with Cursor, and I know there's other tools that are out there, that's the one that I downloaded first. Cursor goes and it interacts with other LLMs out there. So Claude and Anthropic, I think, are the biggest ones that I'm using. And so I go and I write a prompt for it. And I was a CS major when I got to college, so I have some coding background on it, but it's been a long time. I'm a business guy now. And you know, because the technical people don't actually let me touch anything cool anymore. But I go and I'm building this I downloaded this Cursor app probably 2 months ago, and I start writing basically pseudocode into it to see what it would spit out. Well, that night, I went to bed at 3:30 in the morning. My wife's like, what the hell have you been doing? Like, I downloaded this thing at 6:30, and I didn't get off my computer until 3:30. I was that addicted to it. So I went and I said, all right, I'm doing this keynote talk. I want to play a game, buzzword bingo. I want it to be cool. I want it to be customized. I want it to use my words that I'm going to use when I'm talking. And I want people to, you know, be able to interact with this and click the buttons and create the bingos and all that other stuff. So I basically gave it the core of what I wanted it to be. I said, I work for a company called US Signal. Go out, pull the CSS style sheet from there, go out, pull the logo, make my life easier. So I punched that all in, and if you've been watching it, you can see it's creating all this code, and it creates all this environment for it to actually run locally on my machine. And so it's going through right now, and it's going and doing that. So I think I'm starting the web server right now. That's what you can kind of see on the left-hand side. Sorry, I used like an ultra-wide monitor, so I couldn't get everything on the same screen in the video. But it's going and building it all out. In a second here, I'm going to go and pull. It tells me, okay, localhost 3000 or something like that. So I go and put it in my web browser, but it doesn't work. So what do I do? Do I go and start troubleshooting it, or do I just ask AI to figure it out for me? Obviously, I take the lazy approach, okay? I'm the middle child, so I'm good at like flying under the radar. That's kind of been my life, kind of taking the easy way out. So I go and I just tell it, I'm like, look, the site doesn't work. And I don't have to be nice to my AI or anything. I just tell it, the site doesn't work, fix it, you know, stupid AI. And so it goes and I put the prompt in, and you'll see it just start triggering off here in a second. And it's like, oh yeah, it goes and looks at the code it just created for me and said, oops, yeah, I forgot these few things that you actually need to actually run this thing on a web server. Not me. Okay, not me doing it, but this is the machine actually going to do it. So it'll go through here in a few seconds. And as it's doing this, I will tell you then too, I'm running this in my AWS lab right now. And this is, it actually helped me do the deployment and everything. So it helped me go and say, okay, this is the server you need. This is how you need to SSH into it. This is how you need to rsync up your files into it. This is what you need to make sure that you can run all of this software inside of your active web server. So you can see it's almost done. It's finished it. I go and refresh. Boom. Buzzword bingo in 5 minutes. So now as an enterprise, what do you want to do? Do you want to sit there and continue to pay for all this SaaS software, or you want to develop something that's perfectly customized to your business and so you can run and operate? So with that, I think open source is going to be a big part of our future to make sure that we can start to build this backbone. And we have open source projects on the hardware side. I know Meta people are here. They're big contributors there. We have open source on the Linux side of it. I think a lot of us have been using that in our past. Kubernetes, I think, is going to finally hit its mainstream thing. It's still coming. You know, I've been talking about Kubernetes, I think, for 15 years now or 10 years now, but I still think it's going to be the way that we deploy in the future. It's going to be how AI is going to be deployed across the edge. We have machine learning tools that are out there, and obviously, we have that AI LLM that I think kind of changed the game for everybody. So open source, I think, is going to be a big part of our future. Now, I talked about a lot of different stuff here today, and I think I will have a few minutes for questions as well. My clock broke down here, so I don't know exactly how much time I have left. But some of the biggest challenges that I think we have, obviously this compute power and cooling. This is going to become a real problem for us as humans. The power that we need to run this AI is in very short supply right now. And the demand is growing and getting bigger all the time. It's something that I'm thinking about all the time. It's something that's keeping me up at night. The small nuclear reactors, I know way too much about them now because that's what I'm researching on a regular basis. So if anybody, I see some heads nodding, that I think is going to be our way to our future. Small nuclears all throughout the United States, kind of crazy, but I think it's going to be the way it's going to go. The latency side of it, the network side of it, when we think about it, that latency is going to become the new currency for us to provide in the future. We sold bandwidth. I think we're going to sell latency in the future, especially if AI becomes a B2C play, which I don't know how it can. Last but not least, the standard side of the open source, I think, is going to have a real big, real big call to action for improvement. Open source has been around for a long time. Yes, no doubt. Has it hit mainstream? I'm not sure yet, believe it or not. Because I don't know that everybody uses it, or everybody focuses on it. Everybody says, let me try open source first. They say, let me try vendor first. And I think that's going to be a mind shift that's going to happen here very soon. So with that, I thank you for your time. I thank you for having me. This QR code here is to download the talk, the presentation, although I know you already have it throughout or on the actual Nanog site. But I appreciate the invite to be here, to spend some time with you all. Hopefully you sent me a whole bunch of LinkedIn requests, so I have a whole bunch of new friends to talk through. But the future is ours to shape. We just have to think about it, execute it, fail, and then figure it out as what the consumers are actually where they're gonna take us. So thank you for your time. If we have any questions, do we have any time, or are we done?
I think we'll make time for like 1 or 2 questions.
1 or 2 questions, if anybody
we're at
has them.
time, but if there are 1 or 2 questions, we'll take them real quick.
And if you need a bingo word, just yell it out and I'll say it.
And when you get to the mic, please state your name and the company you're with, please.
Hi, I'm Mark Austin. I'm with Hedgehog. We're a new member. So my question for you is, how many co-location service providers will evolve to become AI edge infrastructure providers?
Man, that's a billion-dollar question probably. I think there is going to be rapid consolidation. There's so many colo companies out there that have 1 or 2 data centers. And then you have the others that have like 20, 30, 40. I think there's going to be rapid consolidation where people are going to go and put those together. And I think the consolidation is going to occur because they have network that interconnects their other data centers into those so they can get closer to the edge consumer. And so they can sell a single platform out to, let's say, a Cloudflare or a Meta or somebody like that has a heavy B2C play. They're going to go and sell that out. So I think there's a lot more data centers that need to be developed. So I think if you're an entrepreneur and you want to build a data center in your tier 2, tier 3 city, do it. There's probably still a lot of value that you can create out of that business plan. But I think one day there is going to be heavy consolidation of all those facilities into single operators to kind of run the edge.
Hi, my name is Brad. Can you say IoT?
IoT.
Bingo.
There we go. IoT, AI, ML, edge, fiber, connectivity, bandwidth. I don't know what else I didn't say.
Yeah.
What? Storage. Storage is good. Sustainability, environmentally friendly. We do have to think about environmentally friendly. One of the data centers that we're looking at right now is going to be mainly powered off of renewables we're planning. So I think that is going to be a big part of our world as well.
Okay. So how is the bingo going to work?
So the bingo, they send the email, and then the marketing team is sitting there ready to go, and they're going to send gift cards right back.
All right. I guess you all had that. Well, John, that was amazing. Really appreciate it. Fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.